So everybody's mics on. We'll call our meeting to order. Let the minutes reflect members present are Waller, Priner, and Wagaman. Absent with prior notice are Wynant and Bradley. So the first thing to do is set the agenda. Any changes today?
President Priner, staff have no changes. I'll note the need for, a secretary.
We need an
Acting.
acting secretary
Yeah.
today.
Thank you.
So I need a motion for John Waller to be acting secretary today.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Thanks, John.
Very good, thank you, John. Approval of the minutes, January 22nd, 2020.
Don't we have to do the agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry, set the agenda.
Madam President, I move to approve agenda as presented.
Second, and that includes these,
Oh, as amended for secretary?
well, no, just for these extra motions are in here too.
Are included in the packet.
Yeah.
Rewritten of the motions included in the
And that would be to replace page 49 motion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
49.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now the minutes.
Madam President, I move to approve the January 22nd, 2020 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Consent agenda. Anybody like to question any of the consent agenda or pull anything out of there?
No, I don't have anything.
Anybody? With that, we'll leave it sit and we'll need a motion.
Madam President, I move we accept the consent agenda to permits 17-091, 19-109, 19-121.
Second?
Motion.
Cap Rock, yes, Cap Rock.
I'm sorry, John.
Yeah, it's all right.
Manager
Second.
Waller?
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Open mic, seeing none, we'll move on and we can come back to that if somebody would grace us with their presence. Item requiring board action.
Yes, President Priner, today we're looking for designation of the official depository and newspaper for the district. That's on page 40 of your packet. This is an annual event, and staff recommends no change from the current alignment of the 4M Fund and then the St. Paul Pioneer Press.
Madam President, I move that we designate the 4M Fund as defined by the Rice Creek Watershed District Resolution 2019-04 as the official depository and the St. Paul Pioneer Press as the official newspaper of the Rice Creek Watershed District.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, page 41, contract for Carpet Solutions. Matt?
Madam President, members of the board, I'll try and do my best to fill in for Matt Koshin today. For your consideration, the next two agenda items are interrelated, the first of which is our ongoing work with Carp Solutions LLC on our carp management program, primarily in the Long Lake and Lino Lake, Chain of Lake system. And there is a service agreement with a scope of work in your packet. And again, touching on just some of the highlights that Matt identified in his memorandum here. We're again maintaining our existing infrastructure that is out in the landscape today, including our pit antennas to monitor carp movement, as well as maintaining the existing fish trap just upstream of Long Lake that is operated in conjunction with the Procom electric barrier. Their goal is to remove 50 to 60% of the population of adult carp in the system this year. And they'll continue with population assessments and modeling and data analysis. Notably, this does include operation of a new system by Procom, which would be your next agenda item. And so, again, carrying out this full service agreement would be contingent upon the subsequent action on Procom. In total, the service agreement with Carp Solutions is a not to exceed amount of $44,210, and it is budgeted and accounted for. So.
And what was last year's? Did we do it year?
I don't know
No?
the total for
We don't know
last
the total.
year.
Okay.
Madam
sorry.
President, I'll move to authorize the administrator on the advice of council to enter into the professional agreements Carp Solution LLC for an amount not to exceed $44,210.00.
And I will second that.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Nick, anything else?
I was just gonna say it's consistent with the overall plan that was set, in, was it 2018? Yes, the board-approved carp management plan, December of 2018.
So it's consistent with that and the
Correct.
budget of this year. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next item, and this is a consideration of a contract, additional contract with Procom out of Poland. They've provided the low-voltage electric barriers that we've been operating within the district. And this is looking at procurement and operation of a new system that would be alongside the electric barrier that's in place at Long Lake. District staff and Carp Solutions staff, they've had good luck corralling the carp as they come up into the box net. However, it's been a substantial effort to actually get the fish removed from that box net. You imagine you get 1,000 carp in there and trying to get them in nets, and they're flying around, and it's been a challenge. So Matt has been working with Carp Solutions and Procom on kind of an aggregation system, if you will. And I've got a little figure here. I will show you how this is designed to work in theory. So, existing, turn on this cursor here. So existing here, we've got our low voltage barrier across the creek here. Flow is from right to left. Long Lake would be off to the left here. So as the fish move upstream in the spring, they come into this box net area for capture. And what this system will do, rather than have them all mixed around in here, it's kind of acts like a wave of voltage that aggregates them back at the bottom end of the net. So they go in, we shut the gate, and then all of these layers of electrodes kind of fire in sequence and push them back to the collection point, and there would be a conveyor there that removes the fish from the box net into a container. And Carp Solutions would be providing and operating that conveyor. So the Procom system that we're looking to get is essentially this sweep of additional low voltage, and then at the bottom end, right before there with the conveyor, there is a high voltage zap that stuns the fish so that they go up the conveyor and then are removed from the system. It's intended to be require substantially less man hours, if you will, to operate, and that's what they're going for. With that, again, I believe it's a similar system or similar arrangement as with the low voltage barriers. So this would be a 2-year rental with an option to purchase after the 2 years. If the system is doesn't function as we hoped it would after the first year, we can cancel the rental agreement after year 1.
I did have a question that led right to it. I was reading in here, it said that it's, if it's not 50% effective, you can get out of the contract. You're talking 50%, so if it's 50 to 60% effective is consider 100% effective, so you're talking like 25%?
So
is going to be.
That's a really good question for Matt, and that is something that, so Matt is working with legal counsel to actually draft a proper contract with Procom for this. Their proposal, our initial proposal is in your package there with pricing, and that is something that needs to be defined a little more clearly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would hesitate to make a guess as to what that means right now, but. Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of approving it without knowing what that means.
President Preiner, Manager Wagaman, 50% of what is what I'm hearing your question be, and then if we're at 51%, then we're saying it works.
Yeah.
So with help from council, with your approval of this, staff would define what that means exactly in the contract. So 50% of what would be answered, but then if it is 51%, I don't think I'd necessarily look at that balance so much. There's going to be an exercise of judgment in writing that with Matt, so that he can say, is it successful as a contribution to the overall CARP management plan to achieve our goal, or is it not? And so defining that decision point and the key points will be
Well-
important.
Okay, my question really was, the 50%, is that 50% of the 50%? I mean, it was considered 100%, it's considered effective at 50 to 60%.
Correct.
And they're saying if it's not 50% effective, then we can get out of contract. Does that mean that if it's not, if you don't get 25% of the fish then is where we'd get out? Or if it doesn't meet 50% of the,
Doesn't meet 50%, I would say.
okay, thank you. That's what I didn't understand.
President Pryor?
We
maybe
will
Council?
clear, yeah. go ahead.
President Briner, Manager Wagman. I would maybe think of it a little more broadly. They've put in their proposal 50%. We're gonna go back to them. My first question to Matt will be about, well, the real question is, what's the standard that we would like to be met, of what standard of success, if we're gonna go ahead and be bound for a second year? And we're at liberty to redefine that standard. 50%, in my mind, doesn't necessarily mean anything. We can come back
Okay.
and rephrase it entirely differently. But if you do approve it as is today, you'll basically be giving to Matt the authority and the discretion to decide what will constitute sufficiently effective system such that we should proceed to a second year.
Yep, okay, that makes sense.
And Madam President,
Thank you.
I assume that's what you're saying, you're going to put in the language of the contract, what you just described, correct?
Well, Manager Waller, I'll be talking with Matt, and it will be up to Matt to be able to articulate what is a sufficient level of functionality of the system that makes it worthwhile for us. It may be slightly challenging given the subject matter, and, as Matt has described before, part of this is an experimental pursuit to see if this is a system that will work. So it's not a scientific situation where we're going to be able to say, precisely this means it's working, but you'll be leaving it to Matt's judgment to articulate that, and once he can articulate that, then I'll work with him to put it into the contract.
That's what I'm asking. You're going to put Matt's articulation into the contract.
Yes, sir.
All right. And this only really, when you look at the contract, it's, the first year is a half of the amount. This is a 2-year
Yeah.
amount.
Yeah.
So it's possible that after this experiment, Matt's judgment, which will be articulated in the contract with Mr. Holtman's very fine grasp of the language, and skill, and so I think it's fairly safe. But again, it's an experiment.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's-
understand
I
it's how it's
understand
stated
that,
because
too.
it-
But basically.
They might say, well,
we
we
need-
did fulfill it,
Yeah,
They might decide they don't want that language in there.
yeah.
That could all happen yet, too.
right.
So when does this actually have to be done? I'd kind of like to see that language a little bit. When do we need this contract to get going? I
So-
assume now because you have it on here, but.
My understanding is, we're trying to ramp this up so that it's in place for the spring
Yeah,
run,
yeah.
which the way weather is, well, other than the next couple days, long-term turning, it's warming up. And so there's a concern about an early spring. So that would be the only thing there. If the board decided to table this for 2 weeks, that's certainly your decision. I know Matt's hoping to get this moving. And I say it's unfortunate he's
It's
not able to be here
unfortunate I can't
today.
be here.
I just have one curiosity question. Have had any environmentalists upset about electrocuting the fish? Have you heard of any? Has there been any backlash on that?
I don't think anything negative that we've heard. It's an invasive species, so.
No, staff know of none, no.
Okay,
They wouldn't
good.
until now.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know. I almost hesitated to ask, but
Okay, well, if we want to go ahead, we'll go ahead with these motions.
Manager, I'll move President Pryor, I'll move that the authorize the administrator on the advice of counsel to enter into a professional services agreement with Procon SA for the amount not to exceed $92,000.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And go ahead for second motion.
Yeah, I move, Madam President, to authorize the administrator to execute a customs broker power of attorney and otherwise execute all documents to provide for the import and delivery of the equipment.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you, Kyle.
Okay, on to my portion of the morning. In your packet, we have provided, we're asking for consideration of the final plans and specifications and authorization to go out for bid for the Bald Eagle Lake Iron Enhanced Sand Filter Project. And I'll run you through the plan sheets and kind of where we're at here. The general scope of the project involves grading construction of a proposed pond. It's about 3,500 cubic yards that we'll be excavating. There's installation of 2 iron enhanced sand filter beds, so very similar in scope to the Oasis Pond iron enhanced sand filter in Roseville. Placement of 700 linear feet of pressure and drain piping. We've got multiple vaults going in the ground, and then notably as well, installation of an owner-supplied iron enhanced sand filter pumping and control system. And I'll come back to that in just a second. And then we've got other things there, so electrical wiring, turf establishment. The control system that we're proposing is, again, ideally provided by EPG Companies Incorporated in Maple Grove. They have designed, kind of with us, the custom, unique systems that we've used at Hanson Park and also at Oasis Pond in Roseville. We have a need for, system-wide consistency for staff operation and knowledge and all of that. We haven't been able to really find another system commercially available that does what we need it to do. Multiple ideas behind that, leading us to, again, this idea of a single source piece of equipment. Very similar to what the relationship we've had with Procom and these low voltage electric barriers. There's just not, that we've been working with them. The experience has been good. And so we are looking to go to EPG again for this. We've had, but our intent as well is to actually purchase the equipment, the design, the programming from EPG directly, and you will see a proposal for that at a subsequent board meeting. And so we would be supplying that. The contractor, in this case, that is competitively bid, would be installing the equipment on site. We had multiple issues last time at Oasis where the contractor was trying to propose an alternative system to what we were hoping for, and they simply couldn't meet the spec after multiple tries. The commercially available systems weren't able to do what we needed it to do, caused delays, and I think the contractor ended up kind of losing a lot of money because they bid it differently, and it was a challenge. So we're trying to avoid that and ensure that we have a system that does what we need it to do, all of that. So I just want to lay that groundwork with you. So this proposal then is just to install the equipment and do all the site work. So we're in White Bear Township on Ramsey County Ditch 11. Come over here. North is off to the left of your screen, so Ditch 11 flows under the railroad, and then here under Eagle Street through the site, and then down towards Bald Eagle Lake. We've got the area outlined in black is our project site area. We've got clearing and grubbing to occur in here, and a few trees to remove on this property here. This is a rough idea of what the site will look like when it's done. Again, we've got kind of a large triangular shaped pond excavated here in line with Ramsey County Ditch 11 to ensure that we are consistent with the profile, the approved profile of the ditch. We have an add alternate to install a vinyl sheet pile weir with a cap right here at the outlet of the pond, so that we don't have head cutting, or that way we know the system is not impounding water on the ditch, but also that we don't have any cutting or anything that would cause an issue or lower elevation downstream. So then this would match the profile and capacity of ditch 11 as designed. Over here we have the two sand filter beds themselves. I believe this shows the drainage system. So we've got drain tile from each bed running out to a vault here and discharging back to the ditch. Next figure shows the pressure piping system. So this is where we pump water from the pond, comes out of the pond here through our pretreatment vault. The pump is actually located here, and then that pushes water up to this distribution vault here, where we have our valves that control where everything goes, and water is distributed to the two filter beds. Some detail sheets here. Again, this is showing the pretreatment and the pump vault. These are very, very similar details to our previous two installations. Again, automatic valves here that move water where we want it. And then this is the outlet of the system. And the key part here, we designed this with a little bit of a drop off of the pipe so that it's easy for Matt and Catherine and other staff, when they come out to do sampling of the project, they can just dip right down here with their pole and grab samples out of the end of those pipes. As far as the schedule goes, again, we're hoping to get a project out for bids here this week. We'll have a mandatory pre-bid meeting at Hugo City Hall on February 27th for any contractors or subcontractors interested in submitting a bid. And the opening would be on March 5th at the Rice Creek office. And so your second board meeting in March, on the 25th, we would bring this back to you for an award of contract, provided everything goes well. Construction would begin no earlier than July 1st. We want to give Ramsey County time to complete its project at Eagle Street. They'll be replacing the culverts directly adjacent to this project. And they should be done by May and June. And then we're hoping for a substantial completion of the project by mid-September. As far as the budget goes, our grant amount from Bowser is $392,000. We've been planning for about a $98,000 match with local funds. Currently, with the project as designed, if you include a contingency, we're a little bit over budget. So we're looking at between $490,000 and $525,000 if you include that 10% contingency and some other things. But we're very close. That's also inclusive of staff time. The situation we had with the Oasis Pond Iron Enhanced Sand Filter, that project was completed under budget. We actually had to give grant money back to the state on that. So I'm comfortable that we're kind of aiming right for that target budget at this time. With that, we have a recommendation to approve Resolution 2020-03 in your packet. I will note one change I would like to make on that. We've had some changes to the specifications since the packet went out, and so the plan and specifications date should be changed to February 12th today, 2020, as opposed to January 31st. Or excuse me, the plans are still dated January 31st. The specifications would be February 12th.
President Preiner? Kyle, can you tell us where that is in the document itself, please?
Yes,
Yep.
on page 59 under
Okay.
recommendation.
Yep, and so then on the resolution itself, which is on pages 60 and 61 in your packet, in the first, therefore be it resolved, it references plans and specifications dated January 31st, 2020. And that should also reference specifications dated February 12th,
Yeah.
2020.
Okay.
And Madam President, I'll move the resolution 2020-03, accepting plans and specifications and directing the solicitation of bids for the Bald Eagle Lake Iron Enhancement Sand Filter Project.
Second?
Oh, no, let me finish here, please, Steve. Therefore,
Oh, I'm
be
sorry.
it resolved that the Board of Managers accepts the plans and specifications for the construction of the project dated February 12th, 2020, and directs the solicitation of bids according to the engineer's recommendation for implementation of the project and as required by law, and be it therefore resolved that the Board of Managers directs the administrator to coordinate and to take all subsequent actions necessary for implementation of the construction of the project in a manner consistent and compliant with existing law. The board reserves to itself, however, all subsequent actions required by law to proceed upon board approval. And be it therefore resolved that the Board of Managers authorizes minor, non-material modifications of construction plans and specifications by the engineer, including delay of bidding, contract award, or notice to procedure, as may be required to complete the bid solicitation and contractor selection process.
Now I'll second it.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
President Preiner? Point of clarification for the board, the bid specs come back to the board?
The bids will come back to the board in March for an award of contract, and then any, pay requests and things beyond that point would come back to the board, but other administrative items would be reserved to administrator.
There's something missing here, Mr. Esquire? Your puzzled look is disturbing me.
I'm sorry, Manager Waller, it may be my normal look that's disturbing you. But, no, I just,
You normally look puzzled. I'll accept
People
your
have said that.
self-definition.
Okay, we have
no,
a
it's just that, it is just the clarification that
Okay.
the bids will come in, the bids will come back to
They'll come
you,
back to
and
us.
you'll decide on the award of contract.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, roll call, Waller.
Yes.
Winan absent, Bradley absent, Wagaman.
Yes?
Preiner, yes, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kyle.
Get to work.
Okay, Nick.
Yes, President Preiner, Board, next item on the agenda is a Minnesota DNR grant contract amendment and Houston Engineering additional services for the FEMA floodplain modeling and mapping. Back in 2018, you entered into a contract, the district did, with Minnesota DNR for FEMA modeling and mapping that they've been doing all over the Twin Cities area. The work that Houston Engineering has done to date in multiple locations, there is a inconsistency with FEMA requirements in regards to that data in the model. We've discussed that with DNR in Houston and prepared a scope of work that will bring the data into compliance. And with that, we've looked to amend the grant contract with DNR to cover those items, and as well have a task order with Houston Engineering to execute the work. So this would be an amendment to that original contract and then authorizing Houston to go ahead. That is, the new work is covered by the grant, and the district's contribution to the whole process, because we found a separate utility for ourselves, was $14,000 not to exceed, and we have no additional funds involved.
When do they anticipate having this completed? Anybody, or didn't I see it?
Yeah, it's within the document here. I think we got to close at the end of the year, December 31st. So
Okay, so we
just
have
a
one.
generalized
Just to
ending.
get it done. Okay.
Yeah, we have discussed providing an update, President Preiner Board, at the city-county partner meeting in the advancements of our model.
Okay, we'll need a motion? Page 76.
Madam President, I move to authorize the district administrator on advice of council to execute amendments to the Minnesota DNR FEMA modeling agreement and the Houston Engineering Professional Services Agreement in the amount of $25,300.
Second.
Motion man second. Any further discussion?
I would just like to say one
Go
thing.
ahead.
That original project that the district took on to do that LiDAR project has turned out to be quite a boon. That has really been pretty popular, it appears, to everybody.
Yeah,
So,
I think the information has
I
been
mean,
really valuable.
kudos to the district for getting it done.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
It
Any-
was
Oh, go ahead.
kind of controversial at the time, as I recall.
It was hard to get it going, but we got
Yeah,
it.
it was,
Yep.
but it turned out, I mean, it.
No, I don't disagree with the results. I'm just pointing at,
Yeah,
there was
well, it was a lot of
pushback.
money.
There was pushback about it, but it's been a most valuable tool, and it's uniform, and I'm very happy with it, and I hope this continues. And by the way, this doesn't cost the district another dime. This extra change is gonna be from the Department of Natural Resources responsibility. I think that's important to point out here. Do we vote no?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
All right, next.
Yes, President Priner, Board of Managers, next on the agenda is your treatment of the Metro shooting and trost settlements in the district financial reports. Annually, the district decided to review the liability associated with these settlements and also to look for a board vote annually regarding that. Within your packet is the Smith Partners memo. We did touch on it at the board workshop on Monday. And there has been little change in the area. The criteria that is utilized to assist you in making your judgment is pointing out there's little change. We know that there's additional development in the area, but not precisely involving these parcels. Beyond that, last year you proceeded with what I'll call option 2, which is the second one located on page 97 of your packet. But the other 2 options are printed there for your consideration.
Thank you, Nick. Manager's comments or a motion?
Madam, I'll move option 2 as it was described, that the board finds that triggering the potential contingent future liability to be remote, and nevertheless concludes that it should be referred to in the 2019 financial report as follows, or as modified in the auditor's judgment. And that's in the settlement agreements. According to 2005, the district committed to the development occurs when 2 tracts owned by Metro's Shooting Center and Trost. I believe that's probably, should be updated. I think that's owned by the city of Blaine now.
President Priner, Manager Waller, that is correct. City of Blaine owns it, but the settlement is
With
with Trost, yeah.
Okay. And the application of the district's wetland rules will not have a result in affording the owners of metropolitan shooting parcel fewer than 100 contiguous upland acres for development, and the owner of the Trost property no fewer than 45 acres. If additional wetland replacement is required to allow consolidation of the stage acreage, the district would bear the cost of that replacement. The district is unable either to determine at the time the likelihood of the potential future contingency liability, or to estimate the district's expense if and when a liability should arise. That's option number 2, Madam President.
Okay, thank you, John. Second?
I'm comfortable with either one, so I'll second it.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Steve,
Madam President, I move to approve the check register dated February 12th, 2020, in the amount of $242,727.97, prepared by Redpath and Company.
Second.
motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, district engineer update, anything new?
Madam President, just one item to note, JD3 bids will be back tomorrow, and so the next board meeting will have the results for you to consider.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Manager's update. Manager Waller.
I was down at the Washington County Consortium meeting, and they're very concerned about flooding. Large crowd came to the meeting. Ground is thoroughly saturated, and while we've had a little breather in the moisture here for this last month, there's a great deal of worry about that March, which is generally a very snowy month here, or early spring rains continue. We could have a very large, disastrous flooding situation. And so that's was brought forth. And the second thing was reading the news the other day. Turns out in Montana, they've discovered a use for their local barley beer waste. And if you add so much of it to their wastewater treatment plant, they've been experimenting along, because the cousins in Alberta apparently do this, that adds a certain amount of bacteria to the system and has reduced their alum treatment by $16,000 annually in their plant. And so I thought that was a curious thing, because there's so many of these local breweries that are popping up everywhere, and they don't know what to do with the mash afterwards, you know. It can be used for animal feed, but using the bacteria in the sanitary water treatment plants and cutting down on that most expensive cost of alum, which they also have to remove from the water. So the next time maybe we'll do Bald Eagle Lake, we just use a little mash.
Well, I think we all need to do
And
our
have a
part
beer
and
party.
drink more beer.
Well, that may be for those that-
More product left over.
But these local breweries seem to be quite popular now.
Yeah.
And the article happened to mention that folks from Boston, which is a large water treatment,
Yeah.
sanitary water treatment plant, were looking into it. I'm sure they have plenty of breweries in Boston.
Thank you, John. Anything else? Go ahead.
President Priner, Board of Managers, John noted the flooding in Washington County. I know there is an upcoming meeting that staff will be attending to offer our services, our floodplain mapping and such, and prepare them for, or work with them in communication to the public. So, just a note.
Thank you. Enjoy
Nothing for me.
Nothing new for me. So all we need is a
I'll
motion.
move to adjourn.
Second,
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Aye.